Ready to do this, Eric?
I'm ready. Yes, sir.
All right. Well, ladies and gentlemen, good morning, or I should say good afternoon in my time, and welcome to another episode of Soldier Stories. This is the Soldier Stories podcast, and I am Mark Ross, your host. And with me this afternoon is our Army veteran, Eric Gillis. Did I get that last name right, Eric?
You did. Yes, sir.
All right, man. I appreciate you, brother. And welcome to the podcast, man. I really appreciate this.
Yeah. Thank you for having me. I'm looking forward to just chatting it up with you.
Yeah, man. Yeah. Well, I titled this episode "The Chaplain's Assistant."
Yeah.
So before we get into that, just walk us through what life was like for you before going into the Army.
Yeah. So I grew up in the Panhandle of Florida, which is not Florida that you think of when you think of like Orlando. It's very much Southern Alabama is what it feels like. And so
Mm,
grew up
mm,
in the South with a mom who made sure we were in church every Sunday, and parents that were married until my dad passed away. And so just grew up in a really good Southern home of what you think it is. And so life was really good for me growing up. We had no money, but we didn't know it, and
yeah.
we just enjoyed life. And so I had a wonderful upbringing.
Awesome, man. Awesome. So, what made you go into the Army?
So I was all about basketball in school. That's what I wanted to do, and I was okay enough that I could go to a small school and play. And the Army recruiter who I grew up with in church, he was older than me, but we grew up together, knew his family growing up, was coming to our school to do some recruiting. And he said, "Hey, can you introduce me to some people?" And so the day that he came, I showed him around to some people, introduced him to guys that I thought might want to join. And when he was leaving, he said, "Hey, why don't you join the Army? You could." At the time, I wanted to go into maybe like preaching or something. He goes, "Man, they have a job called chaplain assistant. You could do something like that." And I was like, "Yeah, man, I'll pray about it." Just kind of blew him off, and I went home and really gave some thought to it, and just felt like that was the purpose for my life at that moment. It was a year. It was 9/11 hadn't even been done for a year at that moment, and I just felt a greater call on my life. And so I came back and I shocked him when I came back and said, "Man, you know what? I think I do want to sign up." And so it was knowing a recruiter, but I didn't grow up going, "Man, I want to be in the Army." I don't come from a generations of military service. It was a conversation and then a feeling to a call and a purpose in my life.
Mm, mm. And so you went to the Army as a chaplain's assistant.
Yes.
What's the see? I'm from the Marines, and we have it's all the same thing. MOS. I don't know what you guys refer to it as, but
Yeah.
what what MOS is that? What number MOS is that? Because I never heard of a MOS of a chaplain's assistant.
Yeah. It's a 56 Mike. Chaplains are 56 Alpha. And so 56 Mike was a chaplain assistant.
Okay.
And yeah, which I don't think it's called that anymore. I think it's called like religious support worker, or the title has changed, but the responsibilities are the same. So basically, um, if you're in garrison or back home, you're doing a lot of paperwork, running the day-to-day operations of the chapel, of like people using it and stuff like that. But what was uniquely appealing to me was in combat, a chaplain's a non-combative, doesn't carry a weapon. And so in combat, you serve basically as their bodyguard. You take them everywhere, make sure they're protected. And so outside of that greater calling I felt in my life, I also felt this really cool responsibility that I had not just my life in my hand, but directly involved in making sure another man's life was safe as he did what he was felt called to do. So yeah, it was a really, really cool experience.
That's cool. How long did you serve?
I was in for 4 years, and then I got out and did 5 more years as a contractor back with the chapel, working for an organization called Military Community Youth Ministry, but working with teenagers through the chapel. And so I did that for 5 years. So I did 9 years of working directly with military families.
Okay, awesome. And after your release, as we say, release, how difficult was it for you to transition from military life to civilian life?
Yeah. So for me, there were so many unknowns that now I can look back and realize, oh, I should have known that. But getting out of the military, one is I'd been with an infantry unit. That's who we were with was an infantry unit, and so there was just this masculine approach that we had where you just didn't talk about your issues.
Mm,
I didn't know I had issues either, so it was fine. I could keep my mouth shut and just kind of suck it up. And
mm,
so when I made that transition out, there was several hardships I went through. One was I had no idea what it meant to be an adult not in the army, and so I didn't understand health insurance. I didn't understand
mm,
housing, things like that. Those were like financial struggles that I really had when I got out that I had no anticipation of it. And then I was fighting what I didn't know was something on the inside of me that was controlling my whole life that I had no label for, no true understanding of what it was. I
mm,
was battling something that was controlling my life. Later, would find out it was PTSD, but in the moment, I had no idea what it was.
mm. What did that look like?
So, um, when I got out, I was sleepy all the time. In the army, they misdiagnosed it as narcolepsy. And so I thought I had
Oh,
narcolepsy and I was tired all the time.
yeah.
What began to show up, so I had my first child when I got out in 2007, and anger just built up inside of me. I was angry all the time. I would snap at the least thing.
Mm,
Genuinely, you would walk into the house that I lived in, and there would be holes in the wall where I would just lose my temper and punch holes in the wall. And then I would either have insomnia and stay up all night, and I would lay in the prone position, looking out the window, just waiting for something that would never happen to happen, or
woo.
I would just sleep all the
Yeah.
time.
Yeah.
I might be awake for a few hours. I had wore out, my body had wore out a spot in my bed that was a true dip where I would just lay in bed all the time. And so
Mm,
I didn't know what it was, and it wasn't until an old retired VA rep one day started asking me, "Hey, do you have this? Do you have this? Do you have this?" And I was like, "Yeah, I got that. I got that." And he goes, "You have PTSD." And I had no idea, didn't know what the label was, and even truly didn't understand it at that moment.
mhm,
But the awakening that happened for me was I'd reached rock bottom. I felt like a failure. I was a terrible father. I was a terrible husband. I felt
mm,
like I was a burden. I thought the easiest thing I can do is relieve everyone in my life of this burden. I will remove myself from the picture. My family will get some sort of money from the VA, and
mm.
that'll be better compensation than have to live with the failure of a human I was. And so
Yeah.
that night I sat in my living room and I took a handful of muscle relaxers, hoping to go to sleep and never wake up. Didn't wake up. My wife called the hospital. I ended up that I refer to that as the greatest failure of my life. Like I'm happy I failed. But that my wife at the time had said to me, either you have to get help or me and the boys are out. And I had two young children at the time. And so I went and got help and I sat down with the counselor and the counselor listened to me whine and complain. And I did. I was like, I want to go back to the 18-year-old happy kid I was before I joined the army.
Yeah.
I don't like this life I live. I can't, I'm tired of this. And they said, you'll never be who you were, but you can be better. And
Mm,
it just became the mantra of my life. Like that inside of me became who I am today of I just want to be better every day.
mhm. What you illustrated was, I can say for myself, spot on,
Yeah.
because I went through the same thing. I didn't have any resources other than family members that, loved me for who I was, even though
Right.
they knew that the person that left to go to boot camp wasn't the same person that came back.
Yeah.
I didn't have the resources for, uh, I didn't have the wherewithal to even think, man,
Mhm.
maybe I should do something about this. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And then you got the shame of telling people about what you're feeling.
Yeah.
It's that fear and that hopelessness kicks in, and then it just takes your mind to some way. It takes it way left, man. And
Absolutely.
I hear you. I hear you.
Yeah.
I've been there, and sadly enough, a lot of our brothers and sisters that have served been there as well.
Mhm.
So this is why we're here, ladies and gentlemen, to let you guys know that it's okay.
Yeah.
It's okay, and we've been there, and it's okay to get help.
Yeah.
This is why we're doing what we're doing right now, brother Eric and myself.
Yeah.
So brother, how did your discovery of PTSD affect your relationships with family and friends?
Yeah, it started slow because you probably understand this in that I felt guilty for having some sort of wound that no one could see when there was guys that didn't make it back that were with me. There's guys who lost limbs, and I go, God, these people have these visible wounds, and here I am struggling every single day over something that's invisible that it makes no sense. And so it was difficult at first, but truly, the strongest thing I ever did was to admit that I had a problem and go to see counseling and start to see like it's more than that. There is something wrong with me. And slowly, I started kind of repairing some of those relationships. Now, it ended up my marriage didn't make it,
Mm,
and I was the reason for that. I know that
mm,
that I was such a difficult human being that we just couldn't survive that.
mm.
But my kids and I have a great relationship now because they had to deal with a dad that was really not present. I couldn't be around them when they would cry, and I couldn't resolve it immediately. I would have to leave because I would be filled with so much rage. I was like, is it a bottle? Is it a diaper? I don't know. And to the point that kind of those traumatic moments has blocked out those special memories for me too. I don't remember my kids saying their first words, being potty trained, walking, crawling. I don't remember any of that because of just how my mind has genuinely blocked it out. But I've been able to repair a lot of that and repair things with family. But yeah, it was a slow go initially, and it was me just being kind of hesitant to that. I also learned along the way when I would try to be vulnerable, I felt like people use my vulnerability against me. They go, "Oh, there's that anger that you tell us about." And so I was, it hindered a lot of my healing because I was not quick to share what I was going through because I was afraid people would use that against me. And so once I got past a lot of those obstacles, the healing was great. And I feel like I'm better today than I've ever been in my life, but it
Yeah.
was a slow go to start with.
Amen. What did you learn from that treatment?
So one is I learned how to cope with things, and that was the tough part was when I felt overwhelmed or I felt fear or anxiety or anger, I didn't know what to do with it. And what would
Yeah.
end up happening is I would just start spiraling, and then
Mm,
I would become depressed because I would just be like I'm this and I'm that. And so I learned how to cope with a lot of it. One is I learned some of the signs along the way of like I feel myself getting angry, I feel myself getting anxious. I need to remove myself from the situation and the other thing is I just learned that I needed to ask for help before I reached the point of needing help.
mm,
What I would do is I would spiral and then go, yeah, I need help. And then we would get me back up and pull me back up. And then I would spiral and ask for help. And I learned to be quicker to ask for help. When I felt myself starting to spiral, I would go to people I care about and go, I need you to help me, like to listen to me, talk to me, give me some advice, just let me cry with you. Like, listen, I feel like I'm a lot better today. It wasn't even a week ago that I laid in my bed in the middle of the night and just cried, and it was so therapeutic and healthy for me. I can't even explain it. But I had to have those conversations with my wife to go, there's times that I'm going to cry and it's not going to make sense to you and it's not going to make sense to me, but just know that it's healing me. And she's learned just to give me that space. Like she will feel the bed shaking with me genuinely bawling and go,
mm,
just give me that space. And so
mm,
yeah, it's just learning like what some of those things are, learning what the triggers are, and
mm,
then being more proactive and not so much reactive.
mm, mm. That's strong.
Yeah.
That's strong. And I appreciate you sharing that information with me too, because part of our healing is knowing when to step back.
Yeah. That's good. Yeah.
Yeah. And and you did the work. So I really appreciate you sharing that little bit of wisdom because
Yeah.
that is wisdom.
Yeah.
uh in our initial conversation, Eric, you mentioned that you after the treatment, after the self-discovery, you got yourself back together and you went to college and you got your master's degree, brother, and now you're an administrator, school
Yeah.
administrator. I mean, man, how was that transition from where you were to being where you are now, sitting in your school office, man? I mean, that's an
Yeah.
accomplishment, brother.
Yeah. It really is. And I try to not feel so guilty when I say that. I go, yeah, it's a big accomplishment. what I've learned along the way is there's so many people, they don't even have to be coming from the military world, who are just struggling with things that are outside of their control. There's kids in my school who have abusive parents. There's kids in my school who have lost family members. There's, and there's people that I work with who deal with day-to-day things. They struggle with addictions and they struggle with all these things. I've learned that in this environment, I'm surrounded by people who have similar battles. It might not be the battle that I fought, but it's a battle they're fighting. And so what I've learned to do is I want to be the smiling, positive person that they see every single day. And I want to be the person when they're struggling that grabs, throws my hand out to them and go, let me just help you. I just want to help you through it. I've been where you are. I want to support you. Like at my school, there's 9 other veterans on staff here. So that's a really cool experience too, is that we and all of us from all the 4 branches are represented here. And we get to understand things differently. And I just think that I see the world through a different point of view now.
Yeah.
And I want kids to experience that. I genuinely have been at the point of helplessness and hopelessness to the point that I didn't want to go another day. And I went another day and realized life is better. And
Mhm.
so I want to help people along the way. And this is my greatest opportunity to do that, is to help young kids who are going through puberty and these peer pressures, who have all sorts of emotions and don't know how to deal with it. They get the opportunity to have someone like me in their life who says, man, life does suck, but
Mm.
life really gets better. Like, yeah, you're never going to be who you were, but you can be better. And so that mantra, I get to kind of share that to others. And it's such a wonderful experience to get to do that.
Amen. Amen. You wrote a book.
Yes, sir.
Talk about that book, brother.
Yeah, so about 8 years ago, I stood in front of a school assembly. It was Veterans Day, and the principal asked me, said, "Hey, do you mind sharing for Veterans Day?" I was the only veteran on that school staff, and I was like, "Sure, I'll share." And so I got up and shared my story and was vulnerable to an extent on it. And people came up to me and it opened their eyes on what veterans go through in that transition. Wow, I didn't realize that guys coming back go through that. I didn't realize. And so it was such a positive experience that I felt like I opened people's eyes to what veterans go through. And then that opened the door for me to speak in other ways too. And so along that journey, I thought, I want to write this down. I want to be able to give this story to more people where they realize that life can be great. And so I wrote a book called The Rebuilt Warrior, and it's my story about how I rebuilt after rock bottom.
Mm.
What I've found, and everyone may not feel this way, but what I found is there's so many great resources for addressing PTSD, realizing you have it, helping you cope with it. But there's not a lot that says, all right, here's what you do on the other side to become successful. And I went through that journey and I realized what I was missing in my life was structure. That's what the military gave me that made me successful. I missed that. So I rebuilt that. And so in the book is a framework built on the word structure, those 9 letters there of what I did to build success in my life. And
Mm.
success for me looks different maybe than someone else, but for me it is, yeah, I got my education. I was able to, my wife and I just bought a business. I'm a school administrator. Uh, that's not who I thought I would be almost 10, 15 years ago. And
Mhm.
so, and these are the steps I went through to get there. And so that's what the book is. And it's genuinely my way of trying to help others who hit rock bottom to see how to rebuild on the other side of rock bottom.
Amen. Well, speaking of those who have hit rock bottom, if you had a message to share to help veterans that are out there suffering in silence as we did, what would that message be, Eric?
One is you're not alone. Um, all of us feel like we're isolated and that we're the only one going through it, and you're not alone. There's a community and network of others that want to help you along the way. You're not alone. And two is you have the greatest skills in the world to be successful at whatever you want to do. The things that most careers and jobs look for, you are embedded with those of discipline, hard work, understanding chain of command, understanding what the mission is and moving towards the mission. Resiliency is built into you. And so not only is there a community of people that want to help you realize you're not alone, there's also a world out there that's looking for people like you to
Mm.
come make their company or their business better. So get out there and do something with your life. It's okay to realize you're not okay,
Hey,
but don't stay that way.
do something about it.
Do something about it.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Last question, because I know you're in your office. How can people contact you, Eric? if
So I
they
have
have
a,
questions or whatever.
yeah, I have a website called therebuiltwarrior.com. If you go there, there's multiple things. One is I build an assessment called the Rebuilt Warrior Assessment, and it's over those 9 principles, and it's free. You fill it out, and it tells you where you are in that rebuild process. Also, you can download the first 2 chapters of the book off there. You can personally contact me. I am here to help any veteran I can know that they're not alone. And so my contact information is there. You can reach out to me and go, hey, I just need help. I need somebody to talk to. I need somebody to point me in the right direction. I need somebody to mentor me. I need somebody to coach me. Whatever it is that I want to help. Hey, I'm trying to find a job. I need you to help me prepare for a job. Yeah. Whatever it is. So if you go to my website, it has everything on there, social media stuff and everything. And so it should be your one-stop shop for everything.
Brother Eric Gillis, I really I really appreciate this quick conversation, man, and I wish we could talk more,
Yeah.
man, but I know you're in your office and uh life has to go on.
Yeah.
We got to take care of our business. But brother Eric, I really do appreciate this conversation, and I wish nothing but the best for you and your family. Um, Continue doing the good work, man, because the world needs people like us to really share our stories and share that message that you can turn that frown into a smile.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? It's going to take some work, but it
Yeah.
can be done.
Absolutely.
It can be done.
Absolutely.
And I will never not believe that,
Right.
And so with that being said, brother, just continue doing what you're doing, man.
Yeah. Thank you, Mark. I appreciate it, man. I've loved getting to know you and talk to you. You're such a easy to talk to guy and positive guy, man. Thanks. I appreciate it.
And me likewise, brother. And we got to stay in touch.
Absolutely.
Hey, we got to stay in touch, man.
Absolutely. We
And
definitely.
maybe we can do another one. Who
Yeah.
knows?
I love that.
Who knows what the future may hold, brother? But stay in touch with me, man. All right,
Absolutely. Definitely.
sir.
Thanks, Mark.
And ladies and gentlemen, uh, check out the rebuiltwarrior.com. Uh, Eric Gillis, he's a good man, a good dude. I love your energy, Eric. Check out the website. If you have any questions, reach out to him on there, and we got you, brother.
Yeah. Thank you.
This has been another episode of the Soldier Stories podcast. My name is Mark Ross. To each and everyone that's listening, I hope you guys have a great day. Eric, you have a great day as well, brother.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yes, sir. Take care, man. Bye-bye.